now if you really wanted to. If you haven't heard, this Anchor FM is great. It's the easiest way for you to make a podcast. Now, it's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, which is what I'm doing right now, right from my phone. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, and on many more platforms. You can make money with your podcast if you want to, with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place and more. So please download the free Anchor app right now or go to anchor.fm to get started. You will love it. Trust me on this one. You will love it. If you've ever thought about making your own podcast, now is the time. Anchor.fm is the place.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
This is the people's war. It is our war. We are the fighters. Fight it then. Fight it with all that is in us. And may God defend the right.
Warning! Warning!
We gotta stop them! They're gonna kill us all!
See how the trouble you've started?
Be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. Time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported talk radio station, throwing ourselves upon the gears of the machine. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
You called down the thunder, well now you got it. Right, you tell them I'm coming, and hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
Revolution Radio.
Welcome to Crypt Rick, I've been thinking. What's this show all about? Well, it's all in the title. He enjoys interviewing people about issues that he finds interesting, which cause him to sit back and think. Cryptocurrency, true crime, natural law, the occult. No topic is off limits here. He has always enjoyed when people give their points of view or thoughts on different topics that they have researched. And what makes it all great is that it's their unique take on what is being discussed. For that reason alone, it makes it interesting to him. So take that walk down to his crypt. Make yourself comfortable. And just maybe, he will be discussing a topic that you have been thinking about. Here's your host, Crypt Rick.
Welcome, everybody. I am here. It is Crypt Rick, and I want to welcome everybody here to Crypt Rick's I've Been Thinking. It's been a while coming. Excited to be here. I want to just thank everybody here at Revolution Radio for giving me a lot of help getting on the air here and walking me through how to do this, because as I've always said, I've only started doing this probably like 6 months ago, and 6 months ago, I didn't even have basically have a computer. I was doing everything on my phone, and so I've come a long way with my own YouTube channel now and doing great interviews. That's what I enjoy doing. That's the heart of this show, and people always ask me what's going on, like, what's my show about? I've had a lot of people ask me that, and I always tell them it's in the title. It's what I've been thinking about, and that's what I cover, and I love talking about a lot of different topics. So on this show, I'm probably going to be covering a lot of different topics over time. I like cryptocurrency. I enjoy talking about, murder mysteries. I like talking about crypto reality. There's a lot of things that music is another one that I'm really interested in to talk about. And so that's what is my show's about. And the heart of it, though, is that I really, really enjoy interviewing people and hearing their stories and getting their points of view on certain topics and certain cases and stuff like that. And that is what I really enjoy doing. So that's what it's all about, and I do have a great guest for this show. And I've interviewed him a couple times on my YouTube channel, and we had some great interviews, talked about a lot of different topics. We've covered Bohemian Grove. We've covered the Daley Crowley case. We've, covered a lot of cool things, and I really enjoy interviewing this gentleman because we have a lot of the same interest and like talking about the same kinds of things, and that is, it makes it very easy for me to interview somebody like that. Because, when you got something in common and you're researching the same things, it's amazing. So I'm hoping I'm doing this right and I get my guest in here. So I do want to, hopefully, Greg, you're there. Are you there with me, my friend?
I'm here, my friend. I hope you can hear me. Hope life is good.
I can hear you perfect. So we're doing good. I didn't even think I was going to get this far without something crashing on me or me not doing something right. So I want to welcome you once again to my crypt. I want to thank you for I know that you're busy, so I know that you're taking time to come and do my first show with me, so I really want to welcome you here. And I know you've been on here, Revolution Radio. I think you've done a couple interviews on this station, if I'm not correct. Is that right?
That's right.
Perfect. That's what I mean. So you're way ahead of me. You've already done this. I'm totally new to all this. I'm used to sitting at, doing an interview with you and on YouTube, and I have my camera and stuff, so not having a camera to look at and see you face to face is kind of new, but we got your voice and it's all working, so that's amazing. So I should start off by asking, it's live. That's what we're doing here. And I have to admit, I have to be honest to everybody listening that I am really nervous. I mean, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't, but it's my first show, so I'm just happy that I made it this far, and it's very exciting. I'm super happy to be here. And I should let everyone know that, Revolution Radio is listener-supported. So if you enjoy the content that all these creators that are putting out, and I've been listening to a lot of them, I've met some of the creators, and I love their shows, and they're amazing people here that have been super awesome with me and teaching me and walking me through everything, answer anything I want. So definitely, if you can, support the station because, they need it. If you want to hear great content and have great people to bring it to you, then, definitely check out how you can donate to the station. I think that would be great. And I'm happy to have you here, though, Greg. So how was your New Year? I should ask you that. Did you have a good New Year? I know I didn't even make it to midnight.
I tried to, but no, I couldn't really make it. I am looking forward to this year. I feel like this is going to be an awesome year, a great year. The sun is shining. Lights are bright. No more of this dark freaking winter talk. This is just going to be a great year. We're going to make the best of it.
That's awesome. Yeah, and you're doing a lot of cool things. You got a lot going on with your channels and on YouTube and that, and you're also on Anchor, which is where I originally got my start doing podcasting. I was doing it on my phone, with Anchor, and that's how I started getting comfortable talking to a microphone and that. So I'm definitely going to be starting to upload my shows to Anchor and that like you do, but you're on Anchor and you're on YouTube definitely, and I think what are some of the other platforms that you're on? I know there's a couple other ones that you're starting to get onto.
Probably Rumble.
Rumble, that's it.
TikTok, the TikTok, I'm not happy with that or anything. There's BitChute. So I think it's just getting on as many platforms as possible because we are being shadow banned, and that's why it's so great to be on a station like this where they actually love freedom. Freedom does flip. And hey, man, we're here to catch that, and I just love being a part of this. And nothing like live radio.
I totally agree. I grew up to live radio because back in when I was younger, that's, you tuned into the radio. That was what you did. And, for your music and everything. And like I try to tell like the younger people that I talk to that, it wasn't always so easy to just go and get any song off the internet that you wanted or, any movie basically or whatever you want. Back in my day, I remember sitting and listening to a radio station for an hour just to hear one song. And if you missed that song, then you didn't hear it for another 4 or 5 hours. So, I definitely like the whole idea of radio, and I think it's something that's desperately needed because, as we all know, the other platforms like YouTube and that you got to be so careful when you're on those channels and you're doing your content because they're just looking for a reason to pull you off. And so you really can't say a lot. You can get some of the truth out if you kind of sneak around it and word it in different ways. You can kind of get around the edges, but you definitely got to be careful. And I'm sure you would agree with that. Especially with the content that you're doing and that, you got to be kind of careful.
Yeah, we're getting banned. I got we're getting strikes for just a couple words, and it's just crazy what they will let on these platforms and what they won't.
Right.
So it's very, very biased, but that's all right. We're not going to be stopped. We're going to keep moving forward and continue on in a positive way and make the best of this and support freedom until we don't have any left.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the scary part. I was just telling, I have my tech guy here, Jamie, with me, and I was telling him that I was watching a Twitter video it happened about 3 weeks ago, but what kind of got me worried, and this is with the whole COVID thing and, getting the jab and stuff like that, is that there was actually a video of the police in my area, and this was on video, which I'm going to probably show on my YouTube channel, which was really disturbing to me, was that these police were it's filmed them going into a restaurant and actually going table to table and bugging people at dinner and asking them for their vaccine passports.
Mm-mm.
And I know, and I was just like, wow, how close are we to, the people that aren't vaxxed having to wear basically a scarlet letter or something like that, because that really disturbed me when I saw that video. I was like, wow, I really didn't think it would ever get to this. If you would have told me 2.5 years ago that we'd be where we are with everything that's going on, I wouldn't have believed you. I mean, I knew it was coming, but I didn't think that it would happen quite this quick. What do you think? Are you kind of surprised the way things are going with all of this?
I'm not surprised that it's happening where you are. Up there in Canada, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But, I am a little shocked that we're seeing that here, too, if you want to go and participate in sports games and all that stuff. It's kind of eased out now, but it's different states. It's almost like you're living in a different country with each state. Some states are very, very pro. Some states are like, nah, it's all choice. So it's interesting what we're seeing from state to state. But what I'm seeing worldwide, that does kind of scare me because usually those are all test runs for what they want to do here,
right,
in the USA. So
same as Canada. I always tell people, what happens in USA it's coming to Canada. We're basically the same is what I've always believed, and I know. And I've been keeping a close eye as I'm sure you have been too, and I know you have been keeping a close eye on what's going on in Australia because I definitely think that's what they're trying to get past there, and what they are passing there and what's going on is definitely going to be something that is coming our way. I'm one of those people, I'd actually eat my words because I thought that before Christmas where I live that there was going to be more lockdowns. I actually thought that. I was convinced of it, and it never happened. And so I was kind of shocked. And so it's kind of, I get what you're saying, that it's kind of weird. Nobody's kind of coherent and all. It's not all unison. Every states are doing different things, and you got more measures in some areas and less in others. It's kind of really weird how they're doing it. I just find it really, to me, disturbing what's going on. I hope that things get back to somewhat normal, but I don't think it ever will. I definitely think that I think the worst is yet to come. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. But I definitely think that this year, I hope it's going to be a great year. I'm praying for it. But I do think that we're going to, see some weird things coming down the pipe. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we're always going to have that. There's always going to be something new. It's always going to get worse. But like I said, we're going to stay very positive towards this. We're going to do the best with what we have. All we can do is look at what do we have, where are we in this world, what can we do to make this world better. We cannot be scared. We cannot fear these things. We have to just look at what our choices are and make the best possible choice for us, for our family, and for this whole planet here. And that's difficult, and each person has to do that on their own. That's why I never tell people, hey, you should get the shot or you shouldn't. Do the actual research. Look at what's going into these shots. Don't just do it because they're trying to scare you to. They can scare you all day long, but does it really help? You know, I have family, I have friends who are testing positive. They take a second test, and they're not positive.
Right.
Okay, so you know this is just so crazy. Everything that we're seeing happening now with this whole COVID thing, and people just need to make sure that you're doing the best that you possibly can, and do not fear, do not be scared, because that will just cloud you.
Exactly. Yeah, and my friend here, my tech guy, Jamie here, just gave me an article here for Ontario, where I live. And I want to read this to you because this is news. I just saw this. Like, this just popped up. And it is, so what it's saying is the Ontario government announced more COVID-19 restrictions on Monday due to rapid spread of the Omicron variant, saying the province will return to a modified Step 2 of the reopening plan. So we're taking a step back. Premier Doug Ford, gotta love him, announced the new measures during a news conference as hospitalizations due to COVID-19 and case counts increased across the province. So CTV News has compiled a list of all new restrictions, which will come into effect on Wednesday, January 5th. So you never know. My prediction of lockdowns may be a little late, but I think they're coming. And
are they saying anything about deaths, or is it just about cases? Because
it's just cases,
but never about deaths, never about all these people are having issues. It's like most people that I know that have had COVID or think that they've had it. I can compare it to a common cold that I get every year, and it just happens to be around this same time that I get it every single year, year, and so are these people, and they're testing positive.
Well, that's the amazing thing that I've always tell people is that since all this COVID started, that you don't hear nothing of a flus anymore. You don't hear nothing of the common cold. It's kind of like that's all. It's either you have COVID or you don't. And I'm within the boat with you is that I've had friends that go in for a test. They test positive. Then they go back and get a second test. They're negative. And it's so there's something shady going on there. And then it's really like and then one of the articles that I was reading there, what it looks like they're going to be doing here in Ontario is that social gathering limits will be reduced to 5 people indoors and 10 people outdoors, which is crazy.
How are they going to enforce that? How do you
I have no idea. Yeah, I have no idea. And capacity will be limited at organized public events to 5 people indoors. Like, how do you even... Yeah, like, okay, 5 people at organized public events. Okay. And then businesses and organizations will need to ensure employees work remotely unless the nature of their work requires them to be on site. Crazy.
And then they'll probably have to get the shot in order.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah,
they're doing, like, that happened to me there's a coffee shop around my house, and what happened was I went in, and I go in there all the time to get a coffee, and I went in, and I usually go in and I sit down and wait because I order something, and they wouldn't even let me wait in the coffee shop because I didn't have my vax. I haven't got vax, so I don't have the card. And I walked in and I ordered my stuff, and then I was waiting, and the manager came right out, and he was like, do you have your card? And I got upset and said no and had a few choice words, and then they made me wait outside for my order. So it's cracking down here, yeah. So they're really cracking down on that, but it's kind of scary.
I'm just not going to go to those places.
I agree.
And that's a personal choice, though. I know some people have to, some people, whatever. And I'm not going to look down on people that do either. But for me, it's like, I have to pick my battles, and that is a battle that I can win. What I spend my cash on, what I spend my money, my fiat currency, whatever you want to call it, what I spend my Federal Reserve notes on, that is my choice. I can control that. And places like that, you know what, man? That's why I haven't gone to any sports games. You won't find me at any wrestling shows either for the same reason. So, and I do hope that all of that changes. But you know what? I'm not going to participate in that at all.
Right. Yeah, and I'm the same way. Like that's the one argument that everybody keeps giving me is that if I don't get the jab, that I'm not going to be able to participate in life, basically, and which I don't really do it anyways. I'm not somebody that's not extremely social. Like other than when I tattoo people, I am obviously, but I make them very well aware that I'm not vaccinated and stuff. And I'm not somebody that goes to malls. I'm not somebody that goes to a lot of movies. So I'm not at a high risk area. But the fact that they can go into a restaurant while you're having dinner really worries me and start asking you for your vaccine papers and stuff like that. To me, that's crazy. Yeah. And I'm with you. I won't support those places. I won't go back to that coffee shop, because I just think that, maybe if more people start doing that and the businesses start feeling the pinch of that, they might have to back off a little bit. But as long as people are going along with it, which it seems like most people are, they're going to get away with it. And
we've been in this COVID thing about 2 years now. Has your view changed on COVID when it first came out? Has your view changed for the better or for the worse?
Well, for me, when it first started, like the one thing I tell people is that about a month before COVID got basically put into the mainstream and it was being talked about, I got really, really sick about a month before everybody was talking about it. Like I'm almost certain that I had it because it was the sickest I've ever been in my life, and for about 10 days, like I had all the symptoms that what they say for COVID. I couldn't breathe. I was burning with a fever, and like a few times I was considering going to the emergency room because I was having such a trouble breathing. But I mean, I was really sick, so I definitely think that I may have had it before people even knew what it was. And if it was just a regular flu I got, then I am doomed if I ever do get COVID, because just that regular flu killed me. But my views kind of changed on it because I looked into it. I really was scared for about the first 2 weeks of COVID being in the mainstream media, and that's probably my one saving grace is I don't tune into mainstream media. Like I don't watch CNN. I'm not glued to those news channels where they're just pumping fear at people, like they still are. And so I kind of always looked at it as it's basically like a flu. Like, I mean, that's the way I always looked at it. It's a bad flu. And, it is killing people, but the flu kills people every year. That's nothing new. And I mean, if every year they highlighted all the deaths from the regular flu and stuff like that, it would be high numbers too, I'm quite certain, from the research I've done. And so I've always looked at it that way. I've never been totally, I'm not scared of it in that way. I just look at it as a flu. And if you are taking vitamins, like I take a slew of vitamins every day, I try to eat really healthy, get a lot of sleep. And I find that, so far, knock on wood, I've been lucky. And, I didn't even like the mask idea from day one, which I do now. If I go out, I do wear a mask, just to be respectful, basically. But I'm not getting the vaccine, and that's basically where I stand on that. But my view has always been the same, Greg, is that it's just a bad flu, and you have to trust your immune system a little bit to fight it off. And I think people should basically rely on their immune system a little bit better and do a little bit more research into what the fact is, what scares me, I think what I'm trying to say is that with the vaccine is that nobody knows what's really in it. And I'm not so eager to run and put something in my body that is experimental, hasn't been out very long, and never been put in humans. And we just don't know what the long-term effects are going to be. Like, has your view changed on it over the 2 years? Like, were you scared of it at first, or have you always been kind of like me, thinking it's a flu?
No, I took it very, very seriously, and I still do. But,
right.
I was like, telling my people that I worked with, I was like, we got to take this seriously. Like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what the game plan is. I don't know why this is all coming out. But I definitely took it very seriously. And I thought that it was I thought if you get COVID, you will die. That's what
Right.
I thought when all this first happened. Of course, as we went on and we learned more, it's like, no, they're just reporting on the cases that die. They're not reporting on anything else. They're not talking about the fact that most of the people that are dying have other issues too that they're
Right.
dying from. So
Right.
it was a big turn for me. But the way that I saw, I saw all these people act. And, wearing masks and wearing full body coverings and all this stuff. It was kind of weird. But when this first happened, they were telling us not to wear any masks.
Right.
And then a couple months later, we're told we should all be wearing masks. But, I mean, it makes sense to me. If you're sick, please wear a mask. If you're not, why should you wear one? I never understood that, and I still don't get that.
Right. Yeah, I remember you saying that on one of your interviews on YouTube, like one of your videos. You were saying that if you're sick, by all means wear a mask. Better yet, if you're sick and you stay home.
Stay home.
Which you know what I mean? Like that's what I've always done that. If I'm sick, I stay home. But yeah, I just remember when it first came out that they were really pumping the fear into people, and I don't know why I'd never had that fear. Like I respect it. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like I'm not, like, I had a lot of people at the beginning when I was saying I was looking at it as just a really bad flu. I had a lot of people telling me like, oh, so you don't believe that COVID's even real? And I'm like, no, I never said that. Like, a lot of people like to put words in my mouth or twist things. And, I'm like, no, I believe it's real. Like, I do believe there's people getting very sick and there's people dying from this and all of that. But I just, I remember the first kind of month that this was out, that they were going to, like, I do remember news people saying that there's going to be people dying on the streets and there's going to be, like, bodies on the streets and that. And they were saying that. I mean, maybe not a lot of people remember that, but I do remember hearing that on different news stations, that it's going to be that bad. And where I live, maybe it's just because where I live that I've been sheltered from it, and I don't see it in the numbers like a big city. Like like New York or some places like that, or even in my area like Vancouver, I don't see it. But in the area that I live in, I don't know anybody that's ever got it. I don't, But right now where I am living, it's a funny thing is that we do have like the highest cases in Ontario is in the city that I live in. It's basically we're like the capital right now for the highest amount of cases. But they're not talking about people dying from it, like you said. They're talking about people just being infected by it. So, to me, I've always thought the death rate is what people should be looking at. Like, yeah, if people are getting sick, that's fine, but how many are recovering and how many are dying? To me, that's the number that people should be really looking at.
That's right. That's right. That's the one that really counts. I mean, we could all get it. We all get flus, and they were saying more people die from the actual flu.
Exactly.
Than they died from this. I mean, when I realized that we have like a 99.99999.9% of survival rate, I was like, oh, well, that changes everything. Because like I was saying, I thought if you get it, you're probably gonna die. That was the way that it was being told. I remember Dr. Fauci was saying they were expecting probably millions, hundreds of millions of deaths.
And that's what they were saying, and they were saying that right at the beginning, they were really hammering that into people. And where I lived, I never saw that. Like I said, I'm probably sheltered where I am, so I'm not seeing it in the worst case scenario. And it was kind of funny because when it was really bad, like in the first month or so, when they were like, maybe a couple months, they were really like talking about how, I got music going on. I got a break coming up apparently. All right, hold on a minute.
You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. We'll be right back after this message.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Are you interested in the paranormal? Murder mystery? Real natural law? You enjoy interviews with amazing guests? Then join Crypt Rick every Monday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Revolution Radio. Studio A, freedomslips.com. Crypt Rick, I've been thinking. Welcome to the Crypt.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here, Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays, midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
Galactic Interstellar Council on Revolution Radio, Studio A, Fridays at 2 p.m. Eastern. Join us as we traverse the starseed paradigm, as expressed in the time-space continuum that we know as the divine expression of love and light. Integrating this conscious unity into the galactic paradigm. So welcome all, both terrestrial beings and galactic beings as one. So be it. You're listening to Revolution Radio.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Any commercial advertising you may hear in this program is of the sole discretion and benefit of the host of this program you are listening to. Revolution Radio does not endorse any commercial products, nor does it accept monetary compensation for on-air advertising of commercial products, nor will it ever. We are and shall remain 100% listener-supported. Any product advertising on this program are considered used at higher risk, and Revolution Radio shall not be held liable for any claims or damages received from any product advertised within this program. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps. All right, thanks for listening while we took that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And now we're going to get back to your host.
Well, welcome back, everybody. A quick little break there. I'm sorry I was kind of talking through the break there. I thought the breaks were at the top of every hour, so that kind of caught me off guard while I was talking to Greg. Are you still with me, Greg?
I'm still here, but I like
perfect.
those 30-minute breaks, man. It's pretty cool to break it
I
up.
do, too. Yeah, I do, too. It gave me a chance to take a drink of my coffee and talk to Jamie here beside me to make sure everything's sounding good and that. He's kind of keeping an eye on things. So, yeah, I wasn't expecting that. And all of a sudden I heard music coming in. I'm like, okay, what did I thought I clicked something. I was like, oh, no, I clicked a button somewhere. I'm messing up, but it's good to know. That's all I need, yeah.
Music hits, that's right.
That's awesome. Yeah, really cool. Yeah, and I just wanted, before I continue, just let everyone know that here at Revolution Radio, it is, listener supported. So definitely check out where you can donate, and if you can give a little, it definitely, I imagine, everything helps. Every little bit helps to get this great content out to people. So definitely dig a little deep if you can. It's a new year. It doesn't hurt to do a little donating if you want to keep great content. A lot of great creators on here. There's many shows I'm already listening to every day, and a lot of great information coming out of here, and I'm just really happy to be here. I want to, thank everybody that's made this happen to get me here and walked me through it. And I want to thank you, Greg, for being my first guest. I think it's cool. We've always had great interviews on my YouTube channel, so it's just great having you on here.
Yeah, so I'm guessing if people just go to freedomslips.com, and at the top there's a place where they can donate. Right.
Correct.
See it right here. Awesome.
There you go.
That's easy. So
exactly.
Easy.
It just dig a little deep there, people, and do some donating. And it's a great time, beginning of the year. Then you helped get this great information out there. So I definitely think it's a great thing. But I have to admit, I do like the breaks. That was it was a shock at first, but now I'm going to be expecting it.
That's great. Keep you on your toes, brother.
Exactly. Well, like I said, I was saying at the beginning, I'm so used to looking at you on a camera and face to face, and so kind of just talking to my mic is it's really cool. But eventually, I am going to be trying to actually on my OBS do a video call with my guest and record it on my OBS and do it live while I'm on the radio. So I want to have a few more, but I didn't want to do that for this show because I'm just happy that I made it here. That's all I cared about. I was like, if I can get on the radio with no hiccups and get Greg on here, do the interview, then that's a win for me for this show.
Nice.
But yeah, so as we were talking about the COVID there, so I did want to get your whole comment. So we were talking about whether you were, where you stand now with COVID from at the beginning, or like you said before the break that you were definitely scared of it at the beginning, and now how are you now?
Yeah, I wouldn't say scared because I don't fear. I only fear God. That's it.
Okay,
that's
right.
My only fear, and that's not doing God's will. That is my big fear. But I took this very seriously when I saw a lot of other people making memes and making jokes about dying from Corona, like drinking the Corona beer drink, right, or whatever. Yep. So I saw, and I was like, oh, that's funny. It's very creative and stuff. But but I always felt like, you know what, we need to take this seriously. Now I still take it seriously, but for a different reason now, right?
Okay,
because
what's that reason?
Now I'm kind of seeing it more as, I really believe this was targeted, and it is targeted towards certain people. This is bio warfare. I do still think that a lot of this is related to President Trump, and a lot of this was geared towards him. This was a big attack on him to see what he would do with it. They wanted him to wear a mask during every press conference. They wanted him to tell people how scared we should be. They wanted him to force this shot. They wanted him to do what Biden is basically doing now. They put on the mask. They do the press conference. He's got the mask on. The press conference is off. The mask comes off. Donald Trump was doing these big rallies with hundreds or with tens of thousands of people waiting to see it. They wanted him to wear masks. They kept pushing him. Why aren't you wearing a mask? Why aren't you pushing this? Why aren't you doing that? And that told me a lot about who these people are, where this thing came from, where COVID started, why it all started, what was the big thing here. If it's not just, something that happened and we all need to help each other out with COVID, if this was something that somebody planned, if this was a bio attack, who are the targets? What is their game plan? Looking into that even made me even more cautious about what the heck is going on here. How can you have 5 people that live in the same house and only 1 or 2 people get it?
Right.
That makes absolutely no sense. How is this virus targeting certain people and not targeting other people? It's crazy.
And it's true. Like when we were doing our one interview that I did with you about the Bohemian Grove, we were talking about the Georgia Guidestones and how they want to reduce the population drastically. And so, I mean, it to me, like I agree. I do believe this is a bioweapon. I've always kind of after after looking at it more and more as time went on, I wasn't thinking that right at the beginning, obviously. But the more research I've done and looking into it, I definitely think that this is something that it didn't just happen like in nature, kind of like a flu, like this was something designed. And I agree with you and that's the thing too, is that's probably another, when you're asking me where I stand with it, that I'm always questioning it, the severity of it, because for the longest time where I lived, if you went to a restaurant, you had to wear your mask when you went into the restaurant. I'm sure this was the same everywhere, and you're laughing, so I already know what I'm... You wear your mask, and you walk in, and then as soon as you sit down, you can take your mask off. And apparently COVID doesn't get you when you're sitting down, is what I always said. I'm like, okay, so it's apparently you get it when you're standing up. That's what happens.
It's a stop, drop, and roll.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what we learned.
That's what we learned, yeah. So, and then when you're done your dinner, you put your mask back on and you leave. And I was like, okay, this makes no sense what they're trying to sell us. And then also what really got me upset is back when they were really hammering people, telling them to wear a mask and like social distance and, the whole drill. Then you go and you see all the politicians in that, and half of them aren't wearing masks. They're all shoulder to shoulder. Then you get leaked footage of like some of them going to get their hair done, or they're going to a nail salon, or they're going to eat at a restaurant, not wearing a mask, all sitting there when all these restaurants were supposedly closed. And I'm like, okay, I see what's going on here. It's a different, like it's always been. It's always been a different set of rules for the elite and the wealthy than the average person. Everybody knows that, or they should know that.
Yeah.
Well,
so, two different classes, two sets of rules. I mean, whatever you want to say, but I mean, I think it may even go deeper than that too.
Right.
We have so many different people. It's just really weird that it targets people. And I do wonder if Donald Trump had not won in 2016, would we still be here? And I do believe that COVID was actually, that they used COVID to get Trump out.
Right. And it wouldn't shock me. It definitely wouldn't. I put nothing past them. I definitely always believe, Greg, that we're dealing with a very evil class of people. And when I tell people that, they kind of laugh at me. Some people get what I'm trying to say, that we're dealing with evil, satanic people is what I call it. And the people that are way up there on the chain, they're definitely, to me, they're a cult of evil. That's what I've heard. I've heard that phrase, and that's what I believe it to be. And that's what we're dealing with. That's going on in this world. And what's kind of like, I kind of want to break off from the COVID. I don't want to make a whole show about COVID, but because I wanted to ask, and it kind of ties in though about how the mainstream media twist things. And you're working currently. I want to kind of get into how you're working on a book, because you've written a few books, which I'm looking forward to getting. I've read your one that I got offline because you provided it at your website. So I read your one on the David Crowley case, amazing book, by the way, where you go through everything, and you have the proof there. People can look it all up. You make it very easy for people to look at the facts of the case, because you provide all the links and stuff, which I think is great. So it's a great book. But you are currently working on a book for the Kyle Rittenhouse case. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Right. And what got you, like, I got interested in the Kyle Rittenhouse case through your videos. I remember you were on YouTube, you were posting the court case every day. You were kind of like keeping really close tabs on it. What made you lock onto this Kyle Rittenhouse case?
It was a very simple case. It was something that I knew that I could pretty much latch onto, and everything seemed like common sense. So I was listening, or I was watching the whole riots, and again, a lot of the riots, I do believe they were aimed towards Trump. And even this Kyle Rittenhouse case is a very strange case. I mean, super, super strange on so many different levels, even if you want to take Trump out of it, okay? But there's all of these riots, and the police are told to stand down. They are told to let these buildings burn. I mean, and this was not just happening. This was happening all over our country.
Right.
I mean, this was happening in my small town, that this stuff never happens. They were boarding up their businesses in preparation for riots in a small town. I mean, this was just a highly coordinated thing where they wanted to get people angry. They want this country to burn. Maybe this whole world too. But when I started seeing that, I started watching the actual riots, and you can see the real protesters, the peaceful protesters, are always out there, usually in the daytime.
Mm-hmm.
And then once the night comes out, then you get the same cast of characters, the paid protesters, the violent protesters that we've been seeing for years and years and years. And so I was watching that, and when this Kyle Rittenhouse thing happened, the media was spinning it as if this guy was running around shooting people.
Right.
And so but the thing was that the video was so clear. On that day, the video came out within 24 hours, and you could clearly see that Kyle Rittenhouse was not attacking anybody. He was defending himself from 4 different people. That's what he did. It was so cut and clear But the media was trying to make this guy out to be some white killer.
Right.
So it was all about it was all the same stuff that we saw. So I knew that I had to keep on this because it was so simple, because it was so much common sense. And if people just watch it, if people just look at it, you can clearly see that Kyle Rittenhouse did not do anything wrong. It's nothing that none of us should have done. We all would have done the same thing. If somebody is going to beat you up, you are going to defend yourself.
I agree. Yep, and we have that right as humans. We have that right, and that's the thing that I think a lot of people don't. It's kind of getting drilled out of us, I think, over time, is that they're making self-defense a bad thing, and as human beings, we have the right to self-defense. If somebody is attacking us, we have the right to defend ourselves, and that includes with lethal force. I think that people have to realize that. And I'm sure a lot of people that do listen to a lot of the shows on here, they're this is common knowledge. But a lot of people don't realize that they're kind of making self-defense a bad thing. And we saw that with this Kyle Rittenhouse case, because I can't even believe that it went to trial. I really can't. When I saw the video, I was like you. I was like, okay, this is a clear-cut case. To me, when I saw the videos, it was purely self-defense. And so I imagine I was as shocked as you were, when it actually went to trial. Were you shocked that they actually tried to make a case out of this and made a case out of it?
I really wasn't. I was not shocked because I kind of saw this coming. I think this is what they wanted. They were looking for this. I've been looking into things to see, okay, was Kyle a target? Was he a target? Because how does a guy like this, when he's with these other guys who are former soldiers, and all of a sudden he finds himself by himself? That just seemed really interesting. How does, he is supposed to be with these other people. They're guarding property. They're helping people. And all of a sudden he finds himself by himself. His friend tells him to go to the 63rd Street car source parking lot. Kyle goes there by himself. You should never be by yourself, first of all. And I think that's a very valuable lesson that he learned there. But how does that happen? Where he found himself by himself. That was the biggest thing that I was like, you don't want to accuse people of things, but it's just like they should have been watching after him. Somebody should have been with him that whole time. But obviously the kid had no fear. And what was so interesting, I think one of the greatest things about this is he fired so few shots.
Right.
He clearly showed, the guy knows what he's doing. And a young kid, 17 years old. I can tell you, I would not have, if I was in that same spot, I definitely would have fired more shots just to make sure that these people are down and they're not going to do anything further. This guy didn't. He fired 6 shots total. That's it.
Right. And it wasn't like he was going crazy shooting it, just like you said, 6 shots, and you could tell it was on defense. He was trying to run away from all the videos I saw. It wasn't I really found it funny how during the court case, how they were trying to say that he got this gun and he was planning this. That's the narrative they were spinning there for a while, is that he went to his friend's shooting range and he was practicing and he was going there because, he had this all planned out, kind of what they were trying to spin it as, is that this is what his intentions were for getting the gun and going to protect the businesses. From the way I saw it, is that that's what they were trying to spin it as, is that he bought the gun just for that reason.
That was the very first thing he was asked about. Everybody you shot that night, you intended to kill, correct?
Exactly.
And he says, I didn't intend to kill them. I intended to stop the people who were attacking me by killing them. And it's just like they wanted it to, so they were trying to show that Kyle, like you said, he went there to kill people. That was not the reason why he went there. It's just so great. And this prosecutor knows that.
Yeah. That prosecutor was a piece of work. I've never seen a judge actually get upset like he did with that prosecutor that one day. He was really lighting him up, and I really thought it was going to get thrown out. But then I kind of realized that it's such a big case that would have just been another great big mess if they would have actually threw the whole court out. So they had to see it through to the end. But you could really tell that the prosecutor, he knew he was stepping over lines all over the place, and the judge you could see the judge was not buying like the prosecutor was kind of acting like he didn't know what he was doing and that. And I was really impressed the way the judge handled him and kind of called him out on it, saying, like, don't act like you don't know what you're doing. You've tried cases before, you know the law, you know what you're doing. So what did you think of the judge? Did you think he did a good, like he did good, or what are your views on that?
Yeah. I mean, he wasn't the first judge chosen for this case, but yeah, I think he did a great job. At some point, I was wondering, is this guy trying to get like a TV series, a TV show or something? Because he's really good. Like, I want to see more of this judge. I want to see him on like People's Court or something like that. He is just really on it. But then I'm like, you know what? No, we need good judges out there like that. And I do believe that he was fair. People think, oh, he was totally, just one side. No, I don't buy that, because he would get on both sides. He was a very fair judge, but his personality, this is not like, oh, he was just doing this for the Kyle case, right? Because I was like, well, maybe he's just kind of overacting for the Kyle case. Nope. This is how this judge is.
Right. No, I agree. I liked the judge too. I thought like he tried to keep it as even as he could, and I felt bad for the jury because they were always getting told to leave because the lawyers had to talk to the judge or vice versa. So I really took my hat off to I would not wanted to be a jury member in that case. I just remember saying that a lot when I was watching the videos on your channel and stuff, like watching it. I was like, I would not want to be a jury member in this case. It was such a hotbed topic, and you gotta remember at the beginning too that they really tried to smear Kyle's reputation. They were trying to say like he was at a bar with KKK members, and he was, all of this crazy stuff. And I remember some of the first reports, at least that I saw, is that they were actually thought that he did shoot a few black people. If I'm correct on that, right? That they thought he shot actually a black person, but the only black person involved was the jump kick guy that actually jumped up and kicked him.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, the way the media was playing this case, like, did that really, it probably didn't surprise you, correct? The way the media was playing this case?
No, it didn't. That actually made me kind of latch on to this one more because, within 30 minutes of watching the video, it was like, okay, yeah, I would have done the same thing. Right. Somebody is running at you, they're chasing you, and you shoot them, and they grab your gun, and you're somehow the person who's wrong. I mean, Binger was saying, well, he should have duked it out with like 10 people, with all these people chasing him, surrounding him. Like, right. That night was so crazy. And this was not the first night. They had burned, these violent protesters had burned things down for 2 nights? Yes. And now you have where they're from like, okay, look, we're going to have to do something. None of this would have happened, by the way, if the police were allowed to do their job. That's what they're there for. Okay, so they always want to blame Kyle. It's like, you know what? Don't get us into a situation where we have to all be Kyle Rittenhouse and you won't have these type of problems. The police could have stopped this. They would have stopped a lot of this stuff if they would have been allowed to do their job.
Right. And they're not. And then we see that with riots all over. Apparently that's the new normal, is that the police are told to stand down and just let people go ahead and, do their thing. And I just find that, like, why are they not doing their job? Obviously, there's some other hidden agenda here if they're not allowed to do their job. I agree with you that they could have stopped this the day before, when it started. And, and then what I found interesting was what I wanted you to talk about, Greg, because through your research is that people kind of think that after Kyle shot these people on that and, through self-defense, that there was no more shooting after that. But you were telling me that what you don't hear a lot about on other interviews is that after he left the scene, that the person that was supposedly backing him up, that he got separated from, went to where the first shooting happened, and they were shooting at him. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, you're talking about a guy named Ryan Balch. So
that's
Ryan
the name.
Balch,
sorry, I'm looking at my notes. I'm like, where did I put the name? I'm sorry, Greg.
He's a former soldier. So he was there. He was with Kyle most of that night. He was actually the one who was saying that we need to be next to Kyle because he was young. Kyle was young. He felt like he didn't know what he was doing, and he saw that these other protesters were very agitated by Kyle, just by his presence. And sometimes we can have that effect on people, especially when they're trying to burn things down. But yeah, so Ryan Balch, after Kyle Rittenhouse shoots Mr. Rosenbaum, and Kyle Rittenhouse tries to turn himself in, and the police do not let him turn himself in. That's a whole other issue there. But after all of that happens, then Ryan Balch goes back to where Rosenbaum was shot, and somebody starts shooting at him from his second floor window from a nearby building. And there's somebody else with Ryan Balch, and somebody is shooting at them. So you have other active shooters there. Then the SWAT team comes in. Ryan Balch and the other guy are kind of pushed back, and then that's pretty much all that I know. I don't know anything. I haven't looked into anything after when the SWAT team shows up. They deal with that active shooter, but why the hell is there an active shooter there? I think Kyle Rittenhouse was supposed to go back to 63rd Street, and they were going to kill him there. That's just a theory, but it's just really, really weird. You have cops saying that whole night there were shootings. There were shootings at a park nearby. There were lots of gunfire going off that night. But this is the only one that they focus on. Even after Kyle shot Mr. Rosenbaum, there were several shots after that. Nobody knows where those shots came from.
And I remember, and you don't hear anybody really talking about, like, they kind of talk about right up to the point where Kyle went, and we should cover that, where Kyle did go in to try to turn himself in, but could not get there. He couldn't get there right away to the police because they had the whole police station barricaded. So that's why he didn't turn himself in right that second, but he did turn himself in. That's key. He did go turn himself in, but you kind of hear up to that point. But I never heard of any of that till you brought that up about how, there was the SWAT team brought in and stuff like that. I just never, you don't hear about that in other interviews, at least none of the interviews that I've heard.
Yeah, no. Ryan Balch, that was the only time that I ever heard any of that stuff, and I was fascinated by it. Like, whoa, that's pretty crazy. Somebody actually went back there knowing that somebody had just been shot there, had just been killed there possibly, and they're waiting to shoot somebody at the same location, firing exactly where Mr. Rosenbaum was shot and killed, in that same spot. It's really interesting.
It is interesting.
I just don't think that Kyle was supposed to make it out there. And by the grace of God, Kyle Rittenhouse did make it safely out.
I agree. And just kind of wrap up this hour. Like, this is great because I'm kind of keeping track of the time. Also, what radio's teaching me, too, is to keep track of the time now. So I don't actually talk into the next break. But when you, at the end of the case, did you think all the way through the case that he was going to actually get off on all the charges? Because I know in my point of view, I said right from the beginning that he's going to get off on all the charges. And I got a lot of pushback from people saying that that's never going to happen. Did you always think that? Did you think he was going to walk? You did, eh?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, I didn't have any doubt that he was going to walk. I thought that there were going to be more riots afterwards, and I was pleasantly happy that there weren't a lot of more riots. It seemed like a lot of the people that were out, and there weren't that many people who were out in front of that courtroom that were protesters. Of course, the whole media makes it sound like there were a ton of people out there. There was like 1 or 2 skirmishes within, 9-10 days or something like that. And they were you could tell those people were just there to just start trouble, right? There were peaceful people that really thought Kyle should be guilty. But they were peaceful. They may have said some things or said some crazy wacko things, but that's about it.
Right. No, I totally agree. But definitely we will be back. Take a little short break, Greg, and I will be right back with you. And I want to thank everybody for being here and joining me at my crypt.
Radio at freedomslips.com. We'll be right back after this message.
You going back in?
There's still men out there. God damn. When I go home, people ask me, "Hey, Hoot, why do you do it, man? Why? Some kind of war junkie?" I won't say a goddamn word. Why? They won't understand. They won't understand why we do it. They won't understand it's about the men next to you. And that's it. That's all it is.
Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, #1 listener-supported radio, the printing press for freedom at a time when freedom is needed the most.
I am Bill Johnson. Some consider my efforts to be an underground law school. I am not an attorney, and I do not give legal advice. I teach. That's lawful and legal. Consider yourself served. You are to appear Wednesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern, Studio A. My forte? Foreclosure and contract law. Grab your legal pad and pen. Learn a broad spectrum of law spanning administrative, criminal, family, tort, and federal law. Fools and losers cling to old cases. I dissect and comment on the latest rulings that control the courts. Don't be a loser. And if you don't appear, you will be held in contempt.
I will defend myself against their tyranny. Number 3 is my radio broadcast. I'm squarely in front of the public all the time, and they all know what's going on.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on for expanding its sphere of influence.
Hello, my name is John Wayne, and I do a broadcast here at freedomslips.com, revolution.radio, called The Unequivocal Truth, DEFCON 1.
Freedom are at war.
And folks, I assure you we are in Defense Condition 1, as we journey perilously through this paradigm that we currently reside in. And I ask that you join me every Saturday, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for The Unequivocal Truth, DEFCON 1.
We shall never surrender.
The original machine had a base plate of pre-fannulated amulite, surmounted by a malleable logarithmic casing, in such a way that the two spurving bearings were in a direct line with a panometric fan. The lineup consisted simply of 6 hydrocoptic Marsal vanes, so fitted to the ambifacient lunar wane shaft that side fumbling was effectively prevented. The main winding was of the normal Lotus O deltoid type placed in panendermic semi-boloid slots of the stator, every 7th conductor being connected by a non-reversible Tremie pipe to the differential girdle spring on the up end of the gram meters.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio, taking the confusion out of transmutated lunar girdle springs for 4 years and running. Revolution Radio, the #1 listener-supported alternative media radio on the planet. All right, thanks for listening while we take that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And yeah, we're going to get back to your host.
Well, welcome everybody. Welcome back to my crypt. We are here. We have made it to the 2nd hour. So that is amazing. It's awesome. I'm just so excited to be here. Want to welcome everybody and thank you all for tuning in and listening. And just remember that here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, it is all listener supported. So please, if you can, don't forget, head up to the top of the screen, hit the donation section there. And if you can, please make a donation to the station. So that way, all of this great content can come to you all of 2022 and, make things a lot easier. And that is what is great about this is that, it's you people that listen that make this whole thing work. And that is a really cool part about it. And I think radio is, it's definitely something that I'm really enjoying. And welcome Greg back for the second hour. We're here, Greg. We made it through hour 1. We're doing good.
That's right. What you gonna do? Hour number 2.
Hour number 2. I was so nervous, and I think that's normal when you're doing something that you've never done. So I'm just happy that we're here. I really want to thank you once again for taking the time to come and chat with me, be part of my first show, and cover some great stuff. I always enjoy chatting with you, and we always seem to have a great conversation because we definitely seem to look in on the same cases and think along the same lines of a lot of things, and maybe not music. We don't kind of agree on music. I know
one day.
We're gonna have to do a show on music because as I told you, I'm stuck in the 80s. I was a heavy metal fan. I still am, and I just really enjoy the 80s metal. That's where I'm at. But I have a broad range of music. I'm not saying I just listen to 80s metal, but I definitely like stuff from the 70s and, 70s, maybe a little of the late 60s. I was kind of raised on Elvis from my parents and that. That was their big rock star in their day. Yeah. And I love Elvis, don't get me wrong. And I like a lot of, there's even a few country stars I don't mind. But yeah, we definitely, I know you're a huge Lizzie Buckingham fan, if I'm not correct.
Absolutely. That's right.
You're a huge. And Phil Collins, which I've never been a fan of. And that's a discussion we're going to have. I know.
That's criminal.
I know. You told me that last night when you told me, you're like, what do you think of Phil Collins? I'm like, I don't like him. And you're like, oh, we have to have a talk. But
yeah, we're going to have to talk about that one.
We will, yeah. And so, yeah, you're a fan of wrestling. So, I grew up watching wrestling, so I'm a fan of that too. So I think we just click on a lot of different topics. And we definitely will have to do a show on wrestling sometime and what you think of the wrestling situation, because to me, just to hit on it very briefly, because I do want to get into another topic that we were discussing, but I definitely think wrestling from the time I was watching in the early 80s has really evolved and gone in a weird direction for me. I'm just not sure if I'm more of a fan of this new stuff or if it's I think, back in the Hogan days, it's kind of weird. It's definitely gone in a weird direction, in my opinion.
Sure, yeah. It's kind of like people who like Star Wars, but they don't like the last 3 movies that were made.
Right.
I totally get it. There is still some good wrestling out there in JPW, New Japan Pro Wrestling. It's
right.
Probably, with people who like the old school style, which I get it. You may not know who the people are. Give it a chance. But yeah, I totally get it. The WWE thing is just like, I watch it and I'm just like, this is just bad. Great wrestlers. The wrestlers are awesome. I love wrestling. I love the wrestling product, but it's just, the storylines, all of that. I've been watching, I actually have it up on my screen now, some of the old WCW shows, and this is great wrestling. This is great stuff. So,
Definitely a topic. Yeah, I agree. Definitely a topic we're going to have to hit on. I'm not sure how many people listening are wrestling fans, but if not, probably me and you. But if we have to, we'll do it on my YouTube channel or whatever. I think it'd be a cool topic, and I definitely on my YouTube channel want to start. And my YouTube channel, guys, if you want to go over and have a look at it, it's the same name, Crypt Rick. I've been thinking you can find me. I've done lots of interviews. I've done 2 or 3 with Greg on different topics that we're kind of covering here tonight. I've done, recently probably tonight, I'm going to be posting the interview I did with Dan Henning. Yes. That's going to go up, which is a great interview. And I've, do a weekly show with a friend of mine who's really big into cryptocurrency and it's got me into it and teaching me all about it. So I kind of wanted to bring him on my podcast on YouTube and walk people. And what we do is if you go right back to the first episode of, me with Paul, at BitSwift, that's basically in the title. He walks us through the origins of cryptocurrency right from the start to where it's going now. We're kind of building on each show. So people that are absolute beginners and have no idea where to get started in cryptocurrency, because that's where I was before I met Paul, I wanted to get into cryptocurrency, but I had no idea how to do it. And I found all the terminology and I found, that when I tried to research it a bit, that I got really lost and I wasn't quite sure what all the different terms were for different things. I didn't know how to even invest or anything. So I wanted to make sure that Paul walked anyone watching right from the beginning. So I think that's a great one that people should check out if you're thinking of getting into cryptocurrency. It's a great starting place. It doesn't make up for doing your own research, but at least it gets you familiar with the terms of that are thrown around in the cryptocurrency community. It gives you some ideas of where to go to get started and what to research. So I think it's a great show to check out. So definitely, if you want to head over to my YouTube channel, trying to get over 100 subs right now, so it'd be cool if I could, and start it up that way. But definitely great interviews with you, Greg. We've had some great ones on there. And one of the topics that we talked about, and I think it's fitting for tonight, only because it's the 7-year anniversary of the David Crowley murders, murder, suicide, whatever. People have many different terms for it, like what they're all calling it. You have some people thinking that David Crowley did this and the evidence is there to prove it. And then you have the other side that are saying that the evidence isn't there and they think that he's innocent. And I should ask, just in case people don't know about all your research, what got you interested in the David Crowley case at the start?
It was probably Dan Hennon. He was the one who got me looking into this case and said, "Hey, you got to look at this case." And I had heard of Gray State, the 2012 trailer. Anybody can go and see it. It's 2 minutes or so. And so, I had watched that back in 2012. I thought it was fear porn, so I didn't really give it any thought. So when Dan, was like, "Hey, you should look at this case," they're saying David Crowley killed himself, killed his wife, killed his daughter. I took a look at it, and pretty quickly I was like, wow, there's some big questions here. Anytime that the police jump the gun and they say that this guy is guilty so quickly, within hours, within one day, anytime that happens, it's definitely, and that's what happened with Kyle Rittenhouse too, right? So quickly, they have the whole story figured out. Kyle Rittenhouse is guilty, basically. So anytime that happens, I want to take a little deeper look into this thing. It just so happened that I kind of knew people who knew David. I did not know David Crowley, but I knew people who knew him. And then they started contacting me. And I was like, okay, well, this is now getting weird because you have all of these people who are, always like, I wouldn't say anti-government, but they're questioning, they want you to question things, question what the government is doing, question the wars, JFK, 911, et cetera, et cetera. But here, when it comes to one of their close friends, they don't want to question it, and they don't want us questioning it. They want us to just think, well, this guy killed his wife, killed his daughter, and killed himself. It's like, okay, well, give me some reasons why I should believe that he did that. And if he can't do that, then I'm not going to. And I agree. Here we are 7 years later. I'm still waiting for somebody to give me some reasons why I should think David Crowley is guilty.
Right. And then I kind of wanted to, let me just back up for 1 second, Greg. I do apologize because I wanted to ask you about, and I only found, the reason it slipped my mind, I jumped right in the Crowley case, was I was watching on your one channel that you were in the same area. There was a murder, like a murder-suicide, kind of in the same lines, like you did a video on it on your Gray Stage channel, and where you kind of discuss a case that is very similar. Can you let people know what that case, I'm sure you know the one I'm talking about, and just kind of let people know who that case is about if they want to look into it, and kind of what the circumstances were for that case?
Yeah, I think you're talking about the pinup case, and that was, there was a man, a husband, a wife, and he was accused of killing his wife and then killing himself. No suicide note, just like in the David Crowley case. There was a bullet missing. They didn't find that until later. And it was actually one of our group members, Sophia, who actually brought that up. And she was looking into other cases that, happened by the same people that were investigating David Crowley. And so you had this case that happened pretty soon after that. Soon after David Crowley's case. And so she pulled that up and she, sent in a data request form, and she got all of this data. And it was crazy how much data she got on the Pinnock case compared to the David Crowley case. When it's by the same people, and there's audio recordings, et cetera, and it's another case where, you know, people can think that in the Pinnock case that the husband was guilty. They left 2 cats there. But if you look at, you know, if you compare the crime scene photos, at least in the Pinnock case, we got a photo of where that gun was, where the gun was found.
Right.
And, you know, some partial body photos, I guess, too. But, you know, it was when you compare those 2 cases, which happened within months, I think, you know, maybe one year or so. But, and you look at the information that we got in the Pinnock case compared to the information we got in the David Crowley case, which is a more high-profile case. We should have gotten more data. The police should have done more. We should have gotten some type of a final summary to say, look, this is why David Crowley is guilty. We didn't get any of that stuff.
Right.
And so I think that was one of the big things that kind of stuck out with that Pinnock case was...
I totally agree, Greg. And that's the one thing I noticed when I was watching the video was that even with that case, when it came to the crime scene photos, there was so many more pictures taken of the gun from different angles, and like a lot of pictures were taken of it. And then I find with the David Crowley case, you guys were lucky to get 1 picture or 1 or 2 pictures of the gun, and it took you guys a while. You guys were requesting that picture for quite a long time, from what I remember, before you even got a picture of the gun in the David Crowley case. And I kind of find that really strange that, I just found that with the case we were just talking about, that the evidence, it made sense as I was reading through the evidence and looking at the photos, it kind of all flowed better. Like it didn't with the David Crowley case. There's so many. It doesn't flow like the other case did when you're looking at the photos and you're looking at the evidence and stuff like that. Do you kind of agree with that? Like it's the way it flows better is the only way I can put it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we technically have never gotten a photo of where the gun was found. There was a photo that was posted on another website, and that's the only photo that I've ever seen that shows where the gun was found. Now, we haven't been able to verify that that is a real photo.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully that is a real photo. And then, but we never got a photo showing where the gun was found. We were actually told we weren't going to get one. So it was pretty crazy that somebody else did.
Crazy. Yeah.
So it's like, you can't, the police can't say, well, you know what, we're going to give these people one photo and we're not going to give them to these other people. They can't do that. And they know that they can't do that. And that's why we're kind of in this limbo right now. We're kind of waiting for them to give us photos that are circulating out there that other people have. Well, that's all that we're asking for. But in that other case, yeah, there's a lot of clear-cut things. But I also found it strange that in both of these two cases, and in the Kyle Rittenhouse case, there was a bullet or there was a bullet shell that was missing. That nobody found until somebody said, hey, there's a bullet or there's a bullet casing here. Oh, yeah, okay. Well, there it is. Because they already had their mind. It was already made up. They already had what their story was, but that's not what the police should ever do. Where are these trainings coming from? And the more I talk with some police, it's like, yeah, they're kind of being trained like that. Okay, wow. You walk into a house. Oh, well, let's just make this easy. Don't make it easy. Make it truthful.
Exactly.
Find out what the truth is. It's okay to say, hey, we don't know what happened here, guys. We don't know. It's not okay to cover it up and to say, you know what, we don't want to endanger the public, so we're just going to create this theory that these guys are guilty and that's it. That is not cool. And that is not what the police were here for.
I totally agree. And that's the thing is that when I started looking into the Crowley case years ago, I'm still kind of in the middle. Like I'm always bouncing back, and I know I've been telling people that for months now, and that's because, and the reason I'm saying that is because it's the truth. Is that 1 minute I'll look through some evidence and I'll read it again, and I've probably read the police reports. I can't remember how many times I've read the journal of David Crowley, the Day One journal and stuff like that, and I've read them and I've looked at the reports over and over again, and I honestly am bouncing back and forth. Like, I'm like, okay, I think he did it. And then, like, you know, the next day I'm like, I don't think he did do it. And then I'm always kind of bouncing back and forth, but...
Well, give us some of those things, because, you know, give us some of those reasons why David would be guilty.
Well, the reason I think that, like, it kind of sometimes makes me believe that he could have, and I'm not saying, and like I said, I'm always changing as I read things and kind of learn more about things. I'm kind of always bouncing, but from what I read in his day one journals, which you've also done some videos on and read some parts of the journals and that, like, it was clear in my from what I read, and this is just what how I took it. I could be totally off, and people could read the journal and see it read it in a different way. But he definitely was struggling with a lot of issues, and I think he, though he was never diagnosed that we know of with PTSD, he does say in his journal that he thinks he does have it, and he was trying, I think, in a lot of ways to find a way to deal with it. Try to find a way that he could treat it. So, you know, that's where I think the marijuana comes in. I think that's where the mushrooms he was trying, you know, the drinking.
Okay, but why does that lead you to a double murder suicide?
Well,
that's the real question.
Right. And I guess it would lead me to believe that, I'm not saying it leads me to that, that's where it leads me to, is that he didn't do it. I'm just saying the possibility that he was dealing with some issues. And maybe, you know, we're only getting snapshots with the journal. That's the thing I don't like about the journal, is you're looking at a very quick moment of time where he was writing down how he felt, but you're not getting the whole story. Like, he's just leaving little clips, right? Like, it's just little paragraphs that he's hitting you with, or a couple paragraphs. So what was he going through all the other times? Like, was he, like, and that's where I'm kind of saying that I could see somebody that's struggling kind of snap.
I mean, does it help to know that the police looked at the journal and said there's no motive there?
Yes, that's where I flip back. See what I'm saying? Like, I'm thinking to myself,
which is normal. We all do that.
Right,
I mean,
right. I agree.
That's what you should do in this case, right?
Right. And that's what exactly, and that's what I try to do. I try to be objective and look at both sides. And then, like, as you just said, then when the police spend a year trying to find any reason or any evidence at all, and you know, Greg, as well as I do, if they could find any shred of evidence to point to say, look, it shows it right here that he did it, and that he snapped and he was going there and he mentioned it, that they would have thrown that all over the reports to show people, and they can't prove it. There's nothing they checked all his hard drives from what they said. They went through all the evidence they could, and they could not find any reason to prove that he did this and that he was planning it or anything like that. So that's where I kind of flip back and say, well, something smells, you know what I mean? Like, that's the only way I can think. Like, what are some of the things that make you sure that he is innocent and this is not what happened? Like, what are, like, and I'll tell you the ones that make me think that he's innocent too. But I just want to hear what your ones are.
Oh, sure. I mean, well, the fact that they can't really tie him to the crime.
Correct.
They have never been able to tie him to this crime. They don't have his DNA on any of the, bullets, or they have his DNA. They don't have any of his blood. There's missing DNA. There's unknown DNA sources. But the fact that they can't tie him to anything in this crime scene is a big, big problem.
Right.
I would definitely start there. The fact that they can't tie him to any of that stuff really bothers me. It's like, wow, okay, so they're basically saying because they couldn't tie anybody else to it, then David must be guilty. But then they don't preface it with, wait a minute, we couldn't tie David to this crime. They can't tie him to any of the actual writings there. Right, they can't tie him to any of the shootings that happened there. So, what are they? Why would they ever say that David Crowley is guilty? I can see them saying that he is a suspect.
Right,
but
right.
To go to that second stage and say, well, he's definitely guilty or whatever. Within 24 hours, to me, just does not make sense. I mean, you have all of this evidence that shows why David Crowley did not do this, but the burden is on them to say,
right.
this is what proves David Crowley guilty. Everything that I would say, this is what I need. I need this. I need you to show me these things. And that will prove to me David Crowley is guilty. On all of those things, they cannot prove anything. They can barely put the gun in David's hand.
Correct.
They cannot say David shot Kamel. That's the one. They can't say David shot himself. They can't prove David shot anybody in that house. They can't prove David wrote blood on his wall.
Mm-hmm.
They can't prove David wrote a note in his office bedroom. They can't prove David wrote a typed note on the laptop.
Right.
I mean, it's just on and on. Those would be some of the big things. But the one thing that I was just looking for is like, look, you guys, when people started contacting me and telling me to shut up and just think that David Crowley is guilty, give me something. Prove to me. Show me something. Why do you guys think that David Crowley is guilty? That's it. That's all that I've ever asked for.
Right.
I do it because there's nothing there.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, and I've always heard you say, and I've heard a lot of people say that are looking into this case, and I include myself in that too, is that if there's ever evidence that comes out definitely proving David Crowley did it, I've heard you even say, and I've heard others say, that you have no problem ever saying that he did it if the evidence is there. It's not like you've dug your heels in and you're like, you would never turn back and say that, he's never. How am I trying to word it? Like you're more than willing to say that he did it as long as the evidence that they present is 100%. And, and I'm the same way. And the thing that makes me like the case that always really, when I went through all the reports, is the fact that they found the bullet that supposedly killed David a month later, which to me is a big deal. This is a lot of people gloss over that they found this bullet in the attic a month later, and they kind of gloss over it and just say, oh, well, the police missed it, and to me that's a big deal, because if the police did miss it and they didn't decide to, apparently they looked everywhere in the house, but they didn't look up at the roof, I don't buy. And then the other one that really disturbed, and in fact, let's not forget that when they did find that bullet up in the attic, there was DNA on it, touch DNA, but there was no blood DNA. There was no blood. There was no tissue from what I've read on the reports, and there was no hair. And I do know, because I have a friend that is a gunsmith, and I went and asked him. I wanted to know what a .45 caliber hollow point bullet would do if somebody shot themselves in the head, and what is the characteristics of that type of bullet. First, I was shocked at the size of the bullet. That when he showed it to me, he actually let me hold one in my hand, and I was like, wow, that's a scary looking bullet. And he also told me that the way that these, when they make impact with anything solid, they kind of spider out, like it spiders out and has all these sharp little, like, spider legs, I want to call them, for no better lack of, I just don't have a better word for it. I'm sure that people that know ammunition and that, they have a word for that. I don't know, but I just call it like the spider legs. It kind of spreads out. And then it just tears, like he said, like it just grabs everything along the way. That's what they're designed to do. So when I told him that bullet was found in the attic a month later with no tissue on it, no hair embedded in it, he said it's almost impossible that would happen.
Yeah, that would match the bullet that was shot through the living room floor.
That's another one. Yep, that's where I was going. Yep.
Yeah, and it's just like, hey, how could there not be any blood on this? This is a hollow point bullet.
Yep.
40 cal. Shot from a Springfield XD handgun. I mean, there's just no way if that hit somebody, there would be blood on it.
Yes.
There will be blood. I mean, there will be something there, and it's just not there. And it's so crazy to think that, and to think that is why. It's like the smoking gun, they never want to focus on it. They never want to focus. When we talk about John F. Kennedy, they don't want to focus on the magic bullet, right?
Right.
They never want to focus on that. When you talk about September 11th, they never want
Building
to focus
7.
on Building 7. Right. Here you have the clear smoking gun here, if not one of many smoking guns here. That says, well, wait a minute. Okay, first of all, they found it 1 month later. There's no blood on it. How did they know that this is the bullet that killed David Crowley? That doesn't even bring, you know, when you think about all of the body parts that were missing, the hands that were missing, all of the flesh, all of the stuff that was missing. It's just so crazy how many things that they missed and how quickly they all jumped to the same thing that David Crowley did this, blaming PTSD, blaming David's script, blaming David, what he was talking about, as almost to silence people who do believe that the police state is real, that one day they will come and knock down your door to make sure that you're not, or to make sure that you are COVID compliant. Is that where this country is headed? Did David know something about that? I mean, what if David was here now? What would his thoughts be about?
I agree.
All of this different stuff. There's so many different questions, but just breaking it down to the basic thing, what proves him guilty? What proves that he is not? That's it.
And let the evidence guide you to the answers, and that's what I think. You have to take out your personal opinion, which I try to do. Because I never knew the man, right? So, I mean, there's no benefit for me either way. So I'm definitely looking at it objective. I didn't know the guy. So I'm looking at it and I'm looking at the evidence and I want to be fair, which I do in any case that I look at, that I want to, read all the, the files and come up with my own conclusion. And I found with this case, at least for me, the more that I dug into the police reports and started looking at the photos, is I got the files, the police files and the actual documents themselves made me doubt it, that he did it even more. It's what I found. Like when I was going through all the evidence and stuff like that, that's when I started getting more questions. And I was like, wow, like this is not adding up. And like I said, from my evidence, that really bothers me is the bullet that they found in the ceiling a month later. Huge deal to me. The one that they found in the floor that that was shot through the floor. And I've had people say, well, he was shooting at the dog and he missed.
What about the bullet that rolled out of the carpet a couple days later?
Exactly.
Other DNA, somebody else's DNA is on that.
Right.
That could be the killer's DNA.
It could be. And then that was another one where I was going to say. And then the last one that really gets me is the blood that's on the bottom of the Lazy Boy chair that was never tested. And there's a big pool of blood there. And to me, it looks like that's where somebody, like, their head was resting and they got shot, or I'm not sure, like, but it looks like that to me, like the roundness of it, and it's like just soaked right through in blood and never tested. And that's the thing that's probably another thing in this case that really bothers me, is all the stuff that wasn't tested. Like, why didn't they test the dog feces? And then if there's bone fragments in it and they can prove that, then that eliminates that question. And people can't say that the dog, they can say, okay, there's evidence that the dog ate it. They tested the feces. There's pieces of bone in it or DNA, because they can pull DNA out of the feces. I know that because I asked the vet. And,
there you go.
There you go.
That's the whole thing. It's like, that's one more thing where they say, oh, well, there's missing hands, right?
Yep.
David's hand is missing. Kamel's both of her hands are missing. The daughter's entire right arm is missing, and they don't test the dog feces. They don't do anything with the dog to prove that the dog ate these body parts, but they're just going to say that the dog did it. Of course, they can say anything then. They can just make up stuff and say that David did this too. There's so many of those different things that I really think that people just don't know, because we're only getting two different sides. We're either getting, well, the government killed him, or David went crazy and killed these people. And it's like, no, I really tried to focus my book on the facts here, on what we know, and let you think whatever you want to think about it.
Right. And that's all you can do, too. I mean, that's what I recommend people in my videos, too. I always say to them, like, don't listen to me. I'll give you my opinion on it and where I'm at it, but you have to go through all the evidence. And I will warn people, if you haven't looked into this case, definitely if you start looking into it, it's a lot to go through. There's a lot of crime scene photos. There's tons of documents. Police reports that you got to go through, crime scene reports, the coroner stuff, which I went through several times. I even downloaded the scripts off your site. I remember, like, telling you that I printed out the two scripts and my printer almost blew up because it was shooting out paper so quick. And if you correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, but in the 2013 script, he kind of does touch in on a pandemic and kind of what's going on now. Like, very lightly he does, though, if you read it.
Yeah, he definitely does. He talks about a virus, talks about a vaccine, talks about people wearing masks, things like that. So yeah, he was touching on it for sure.
And what script? I'm just curious because I know you've read them too. What is your favorite script? Are you a fan of the first one, or are you a fan of the ones that he rewrote? Like, and which one did you like more? And what reason? Like the reason why you did?
So I like them both for different reasons, I would say. So the 2013 script is like a Stephen King novel, and the 2014 script is like a Tom Clancy novel. So depending on which one you like better, and the mood and everything, there were a lot of things. Like, I would love to see somebody take both of the scripts, take the best of both of those, and combine them into one film.
Right.
The 2013 script, because it talked about the Bohemian Club, I think, I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting stuff. I thought that the 2014 script, which was more like a Tom Clancy police state movie, I thought it was more intelligent. It was more like a mainstream script. The 2013 script was more cultic, just a lot of shapeshifters,
right.
People coming back from the dead almost. Weird. So it all depends on what you're into. I think if you're more into the Stephen King, you'll like the 2013 script. If you're more into the Tom Clancy, like me, you'll probably like the 2014 script better.
Right. And do you think that the movie will ever get made? Do you think? You don't think so?
No, I kind of think that in some ways it already has been made. I think you can look at certain movies and kind of see some elements of it, I guess.
Right.
But no, I don't think that I would like to see it made. But I don't think that it ever will, just because, the only way that I could ever see this getting made is if we get David's name cleared. Because who is going to make a movie from a child killer? So that's another reason why, you can kind of see why some of the, I don't want to call them wild conspiracy theories, because they may be true. It may be a government hit. It may be a big, powerful people who looked at David's script and said, no, we cannot do this. We cannot have this out there. But, I don't know what this script, there's so much to it and there's so much relevant in it that I just, I would love to see it made. But it would be really, really difficult to make, because they would always have to go back to this was made by somebody that they think killed their kids, killed their wife, and killed themselves. Unless we can get his name cleared, I don't think this will ever get made.
Right. That's kind of where I'm standing on that, too. I think if it was going to get made, it would have been made by now. And I agree with you that maybe if they...
There's legal reasons. There's legal reasons, too.
Yeah, and I think that, like you said, they're not going to... It's kind of a taboo movie just because of the implications behind it of him, killing his daughter and his wife and then himself. Nobody's going to really want to touch it. I've watched the Netflix documentary probably like 4 or 5 times, and I did not like it. I tried. I looked at it the first time. It kind of left a sour taste in my mouth when I watched it the first time. So I thought I always try to watch things a couple times because you kind of pick up things that you missed. And I still didn't like it. Actually, after the third time, I liked it even. It bothered me even more. And just because I think that they tried to very much lead the viewers into a very narrow gate where they wanted you to go and make you get to that conclusion. And I know you were part of that, very short. You and Dan Henning were in that as the crazy conspiracy guys is how they portrayed you guys, in my opinion. What did you think of that Netflix documentary?
Well, they had interviewed us for 2 hours.
Really?
So they had a lot of footage. I told them about that bullet in the ceiling. We had talked about all of that different stuff, and that's not where they were going. So I clearly saw what they were focused on. They were just they wanted the drama. And there are a lot of people in this case that just want to focus on the drama, to make it about me versus Sean Wright and blah, 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 this person versus that person, et cetera, et cetera. But it's like, well, no, what a documentary should be focused on is what proves David Crowley did this and what proves that he didn't do this. Right. So I hope one day there will be a real film that is made on that. What this was is just, it was everything we've seen but on steroids. So it was all of the propaganda. David is crazy. He's guilty. He was a soldier. He fought in these wars. He thinks that the police are going to come knocking down people's doors, et cetera, et cetera. David was a filmmaker. He was an excellent filmmaker. Mm-hmm. And they just pretty much tarnished his whole filmmaking process. They went after him even after he was dead, and that's what I didn't really like about this film. Two things I didn't like about this film: the way that they went after David Crowley to make him look crazy, and the way that they went after David's wife, Kamel, to make her look crazy. And the fact that Kamel's family had all of their footage taken out of that film because Eric Nelson was trying to make his film, he was trying to make it into a pack theory that David and his wife had plotted to kill themselves and their daughter.
Right, and I heard that too.
Like Sean Wright and those people, they still think that is true. They believe that. They believe that there was some type of a pack theory, which is complete BS. And that would also not be a double murder suicide. So even those people who think that this is a pact are pretty much on our side, where they think that what the police are saying is not true.
Right. That's I totally agree. I can't argue with you on that. And I was really, it must have been a little upsetting for you when you saw, like, they interviewed you and Dan for 2 hours, and they put you in for what? You're maybe in there like 5 minutes, kind of.
Maybe 2 minutes. Yeah, I didn't think that. I'm actually in the trailer too. They put me in the trailer, but I didn't even think that we would even make it in.
Wow. So which leads so that means that you can tell they weren't even looking to get your true, like, look at the evidence that you and Dan and all the other people were looking into it were providing. Correct. Because they, 2 minutes out of that, and and you were kind of hesitant. I think you were telling me right from the start of this when they approached you, right? You weren't too eager to actually do this documentary, were you? Or like
no. But looking back now, I'm glad that I did. But at that point, no, I was, I knew, I was kind of like, no, I know what this is going to be. It's just going to be another hit piece, and do we really want to have that side in there? And I think Dan Hinna was right. It's like, no, you got to have that side. At least they were willing to interview us. They spent money. They had to hire people to come out to my parents' house and film me, right? And film Dan and do all of that. But it was the questions were all the same. Every newspaper company or anything like that had contacted me, it was all the same stuff. It was never about, look, guys, let me tell you. Do you guys know about Item 57? Do you know about these bullets? Do you know about all this stuff? The DNA missing? They didn't know anything about that, and they didn't care about that. They already had their whole story. They just wanted they wanted a few crazy conspiracy theorist people who thought the government did it. They didn't realize, apparently, that Dan and I did not believe that the government had anything to do with this.
Right.
So it was so crazy, and I don't know.
It might be a documentary that you should look into making. Is maybe down the road sometime would kind of be cool if you would make a documentary where you do honestly look at both sides and give people both sides, like the people, look at the side that think that he did it and the side that thinks that he's, that he didn't do it. And I think that's what this case needs. I think it needs an objective documentary, kind of like where they honestly do look at both sides and hear both sides, because that's, to me, you have to, in this case, and I've heard you say it many times to people, is that you have to, if you want to get a good idea of this case, you have to dig into it yourself and really dig in and start looking at it yourself and come to your own conclusion. And that's what I've always recommended for people. I've heard you recommend that, Dan recommend that, and I think that's the way to go. Like, it's just a lot to go through. Like, that's the problem I had when I started really digging into it. It's just so much to remember, and there's so much evidence that you got to go through. That it's incredible how you guys know, like, you know the numbers of the bullets, you know all of that information, which is crazy to me. It's impressive.
Well, thank you. I mean, that's why I wrote this book, was to make it easy for people to pretty much get caught up on just the simple facts of this case, and just take that and, you know, whatever your theory is, whatever you think it is. But, you know, I've noticed that a lot of people who want to think that David Crowley is guilty, they already come in, they put their personal feelings into it. I have no personal feelings to put into this. I could walk away from this case now. You know, I could walk away from all of this right now and not feel bad and feel like, hey, I've done my part. Look, I've given you what the facts are. Whatever you think about that, whatever you want to do with it, take it, do it. You know, it's all clear. To me, it's very, very clear. But what I don't like is when people are being tricked. I don't like when people try to trick people. I don't like the way that there's so many different slants on this case, where they want you to just think David Crowley is guilty, that every soldier who has PTSD is going to kill their wife, kill their kid. No, that doesn't happen. Usually people with PTSD, they kill themselves. They're not going to kill a 5-year-old child. Not going to kill a 28-year-old woman. Not going to write her name in blood. I mean, there's just so many different things that just don't line up with any of these theories that I've heard about why David is guilty.
Right, and that's true, and that's why I've always liked the name of your channel too, is The Gray Stage, because as I've always said, I've said in a couple of my YouTube videos that whoever did it, it was definitely it was staged. I mean, it's crazy the amount of staging that went into this for whoever did it, whatever side people fall on. And the thing that, like, I found kind of weird too with the whole suicide notes is that David, you know, everybody agreed David was a writer and he had a flair for the dramatic and stuff. If you read his scripts and that, and you see his trailer and all of that, and I just have a lot of trouble believing that he wouldn't have left a note, a note or something, like, more than what he did. A lot of, like, you know, you can't prove that he was even the one that wrote it on the computer, because that can be faked by anybody. To me, like, and I'm just saying, like, do you find it weird that he didn't leave a note? And I do know, I've done research on suicide notes. To be fair, a lot of the times people do not leave notes, and that I wouldn't be honest if I didn't say that. Like, it is common that a lot of people don't leave notes. But to me, from what I've learned about David, he would have definitely, I think, left some type of note. I just have a hard time believing that he would have just left those few little sentences like he did. What do you think about that? Do you agree, or?
I don't think that any of the notes there would qualify as a suicide note.
I agree. I
mean, I often compare this case and the documentary to the Kurt Cobain case.
Kurt Cobain, yep.
And the documentary called Soaked in Bleach, which is one of the best documentaries I've ever seen. I would love to see them do a documentary on David Crowley in that same vein, in the same way.
That is an amazing documentary.
Yeah, it really is. And it's just like, you know, even then it was like, but I think even Kurt Cobain's was signed, right? It was signed, even though it was fake. I could be wrong on that.
Yeah, I can't remember. It's been so long since I saw that documentary.
I think it was actually signed. Again, I could be wrong on that.
Right.
There were 2 notes left, and technically, if you include the blood writing on David Crowley's wall, there were 3 notes left in 3 separate rooms. None of them were signed by David. None of them could be labeled as suicide notes, I don't think, but they were all left for the police to see in wide open. So you have 3 notes here, 3 things. 3 stage things. Whether you believe David Crowley staged it for the cops to see or somebody else did,
right?
The whole crime scene is staged for the police to come in and to quickly wrap this thing up.
Mm-hmm. And I agree. That's why I love the name of when you say the Gray Stage, and I think that's a perfect name for it because it is a stage. And from the music on the laptop to go off when the police went in. As you said, to the blood writing on the wall, which is another thing I have a problem with, that they can't pull any fingerprints from that. There's so much, like, we could do another whole show on just all the evidence, like, and how there's, why is there David's blood on the magazine that's in the gun? Like, how did that get there? Obviously, if his blood's on the gun, on the magazine, he had to have some type of injury.
Right.
And why was he bleeding at all? Like, why is his blood there? It shouldn't be there. If it happened the way the police say they think it happened, then explain to me why his blood is on the clip of this gun. Why is it there? And from what I can tell from the autopsy reports, there was no sign of, it's kind of hard to tell because a lot of his body, his head was missing and his right hand and stuff. But why is his blood there? And that must probably make you question it too, correct? Like, how does blood get on the magazine? And why is his blood not all over the gun? Why is everybody's blood not all over the gun?
Well, if his blood is on the magazine, why is it not on any of the bullets? It should at least be on one bullet.
Right.
At least.
Yep.
Okay, so if you don't have it there, you don't know who wrote Allahu Akbar,
yep.
Right, on the blood wall, right? You don't know who did that. You don't know who wrote any of these things here. Why are we just assuming that David Crowley did this again?
Exactly.
Because of a 2012 trailer that he made that, was very, very popular about it, I wouldn't even say anti-police because David had family in police. So I don't believe David himself was anti-cop. He wasn't anti-soldier. He was a soldier. He served with the, he served over there in the two hardcore countries, that were going through this whole war. If anybody was a target, David was.
Right.
It's so crazy. There's so many things, but if you just break it down to the basic level, man, what proves him guilty? Can somebody just answer that? What proves him guilty for me?
Well, a lot of people, Greg, are going to say that the police reports is what proves him guilty.
But where? Can they really break down where in the police report? Can they give you the page number? Can they give you the sentence? Can they give you exactly where it says here? Boom. Because I can tell you in those 94 pages, the police say they have no motive. They have no idea why David did what he did, but they just are going to believe that he did it. So where in the, that's all I'm asking for. Show me where David Crowley is guilty.
No, and
that's too much to ask for, Rick.
Well, no, exactly, especially after 7 years. I mean, it's true, and that's the kind of thing is that you can, the more you look into it, the more you got to be careful because you start going down all these rabbit holes. And I noticed that when I first started really digging into it, when I wanted to start doing interviews on it for my YouTube channel, was if you start digging into it, it starts spidering you all over the place. Like you're going down all these different rabbit holes and you kind of lose focus for a while. At least I did. I can't speak for everybody. I'm not going to blanket statement that. But I kind of found myself going down all these different rabbit holes and I found it really hard to stay objective in the middle at first and not get distracted by all these other, like you were saying, you're trying to stay away from all of these other theories and the government, blah, blah, blah. You're just looking right at the evidence and the evidence that's at hand and that's been presented to you. And to me, that was the trick of it at the first, was not to go down all these different rabbit holes and get brought off the case, which could be done as a distraction. Who knows if that's not the intention of all of these different rabbit holes that they're putting people down when it comes to this case.
That's right. That's right. And yeah, I mean, that could be the whole thing. That's why there's so much propaganda out there regarding this case. And it's like, well, okay, people are just looking for something. Give me a starting point. And that's what I tried to do with this book. I'm going to give you a starting point here. I'm not going to tell you what happened because I don't know what happened. I don't know if David Crowley is innocent. I don't know if he's guilty. Here's what I know. And that's what the book focuses on. What you want to do with that, what you think is relevant, whatever helps you, get to the truth, that is the main point. I've seen too many cases, too many times where there are people who are going to tell me what happened. Don't tell me what happened. Tell me why you believe what happened. Show me the research. Show me the documentation. Show me the evidence of why you believe what you believe. That's it.
Right. And that's keep it simple. Keep it simple, yeah. And that's a great way to look at it, too. And just because we're kind of getting close to the end of the show here, which is, I'm super excited that we made it to the end. And having a great time. I can talk, like I always say, I could talk to you for hours because I just have great conversations with you. Let everybody know where they can find you, Greg, like all your different channels, your website. Let everybody know where they can get the documents, and if they want to look at this case themselves, they want to look at the evidence themselves. I'll give you this few minutes here. Just the floor is yours, Greg.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I would say if you want to learn more about the David Crowley case, you can go to thegraystage.wordpress.com. I have all of the documents up there. You can read them all for yourself. I have the photos. You can download all of that stuff. You can download my free book, which is called The Gray Stage. We have a monthly podcast, which comes out at the first of every month. Wherever you listen to podcasts, type in The Gray Stage. I'm sure it will pop up. But if you're curious about this case, about a former soldier, this is what we're talking about. David Crowley was a soldier who served this country, okay, in two of the most ridiculous wars that we have ever seen after 9/11. And this guy was accused of murdering his wife, murdering his 5-year-old child, and then committing suicide, okay? That is what we know. We know what he was accused of. The question is, what proves him guilty? So I've created this book. If you type in The Gray Stage, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Rumble, now on TikTok, wherever, but really whatever you are looking for, if you're looking for any documents, you'll definitely find those. If you just search for Greg Fernandez Jr., some of my other stuff will pop up, some of the future things that I'm working on now, kind of in the background. And, I just look forward to continuing to try to help people to understand some of the basic things about these cases, and try to leave my own personal views out of it, and try to help people who are researching like me, right? I write the books and I look at the stuff that I would want to do. So when I want to look at a case, I want to find the actual documents.
Right.
They're hard to find. Sometimes people hide them, or they just give you clips of this. No, I'm going to give you everything. If I have the documents, I'm going to make sure that you have them too. Read the documents for yourself, and you can decide for yourself.
That's the perfect way to say it, Greg, and that is true. If you go to the site that he's mentioned, all the documents are there. You can go through them all. Like, that's what I did. I went through all of them. I even downloaded the Day One Journal, his scripts. That's what I like about that, is that you present all the evidence. Like, you give everybody the information. If they choose, they can go through it all by themselves, on their own time. How many times they will ever want to go over it? I've probably read all of the documents at least 3 times, and it's still a lot to absorb even after that many times. So that's what's great, is that you can find the information. You make it very easy to access and very transparent, and that's a great thing. I mean, like, as you were saying, a lot of people they make it hard to find the evidence, and at least you're trying to let people know where to get the evidence. You're presenting it to them, and then they can come up with their own conclusion. And that's all you can ask. I think that's fair, and that's what I tell people. If you want to look into this case or any case, you have to do the research yourself, and not let people influence your thoughts and like try to steer you into what they want you to believe. I just think it's really cool that you kind of just present the evidence, and you keep telling people, look at the evidence, look at the videos, and then come to your own conclusion.
Yep, and that's what I love about your show is, that's what your show has been very focused on, and just letting people kind of, look into these things. And I love the topics that you're talking about, and I look forward to your show, to your future shows. I may not be able to participate in all your future shows, but I will be listening to them.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Whether my work knows that or not, I will be listening to them, because I love your style. I love this platform. I love radio. And
Me too.
FreedomSlips.com has just been killing it for so many years. I think you are, Billy really brought us here too, and I think, man, this is the perfect format for you, and I'm so happy that you are here, and so privileged and so honored to be a part of your first show.
Thank you so much, Greg. That is amazing. Kind words, and I enjoy interviewing you, as I've said a couple times in this interview here in this show, and I just want to wrap up with that, Greg. I want to thank you for being my guest, my first guest, and I want to thank everybody for joining me on this first episode. Please come back next Monday. I will be here at the same time. And don't forget to donate if you can, because this is listener-supported, guys. Have a great evening, and I will be back here next Monday night. Take care, guys.